You sit down to start something, and 30 seconds later, you're on to something else entirely. The to-do list is still open on the screen, but your mind has already gone somewhere you can't quite put into words. The work stops, the guilt sets in, and the cycle starts over exactly like yesterday, like last week, like always. The people around you seem to run on a gear that never came in your kit. You push yourself to try. But when a topic doesn't truly grab you, nothing happens. Zero. As if willpower simply doesn't exist, no matter how much you want it to. And then came the diagnosis, or the suspicion, or yet another criticism wrapped in concern. You need to focus. You're smart, but you're wasting it. Pay more attention. You have everything going for you, so what's missing? What's missing isn't effort. And the reason for that has never come from any medical report. And here's why. This world exists in a 3D reality. And that reality was built for a very specific kind of soul. A soul that accepts repetition, that obeys the system, that runs on autopilot without questioning anything. Most of the people around you operate that way. Not because they're better than you, because they were shaped inside that frequency and never left it. You were not shaped here. Your soul came from a higher dimension, one where reality works in a completely different way, grounded in purpose, in freedom, in pure creation. And when that soul incarnates into a 3D reality that demands exactly the opposite of what it knows, it distorts, it locks up, it looks broken. But it isn't broken, it's just in the wrong place. My name is Daniel. I am the watchman of the origin of the chosen ones. And today I'm going to reveal to you 7 spiritual reasons why chosen ones almost always have ADHD. And pay attention. The 4th and the 6th will help you understand why your ADHD is exactly what separates you from those who are still asleep. If this video reached you, leave a like right now. It helps this content reach other chosen ones who are going through exactly what you're going through. The first reason is that your soul came from a higher dimension, and your internal system still operates at that frequency. This world exists in a 3D reality, and 3D reality works in a very specific way. Repetition, obligation, automated survival. Go to school, get the job, keep the routine, repeat. The people here have adapted to that rhythm because they were shaped inside it. They don't feel the weight of it, because they've never known anything else. But you have, not through the kind of memory you access day to day, but through something deeper. Your soul came from a dimension where reality runs on purpose, on freedom, on pure creation. A dimension where you didn't have to force yourself to exist, where who you were and what you did came from the same place without friction. When that soul incarnates here and finds itself inside a 3D reality that demands exactly the opposite, a collision happens. A deep, constant collision that the world looked at from the outside and called a deficit. But from the inside, it's your soul refusing to operate at a level that isn't its own. ADHD isn't the problem. It's the symptom of the collision between the dimension you came from and the reality you're in right now. The second reason is that the chosen one's attention system was made for depth, not volume. You've probably noticed this already. When something truly captures you, you disappear. Hours go by without you realizing it. The food gets cold, the night closes in, and you're still there, deep in it, fully alive, with a kind of presence that rarely shows up at any other time. That isn't hyperactivity. That's hyperfocus. It's the same antenna that seems completely off for most things, locking in at full frequency when it finally finds the right signal. This happens because the chosen one's attention wasn't designed to function in the surface-level mode that modern life demands. Cascading emails, meetings that could have been a text, tasks that shift before they're finished. That fragmented mode is the natural habitat for most people. For you it's noise, for you it's almost unbearable, and you could never quite put into words why. The spiritual reason is that your soul was sealed with a mode of presence that requires depth. When that depth doesn't find a destination, it turns into restlessness. It becomes that feeling of being in motion while going nowhere. But the restlessness isn't the problem. It's the depth that hasn't found a place to land yet. I want to stop here for a moment. Everything you're hearing right now, the frequency, the collision, the soul that hasn't forgotten where it came from, has a name. And that name has never reached you through medicine, through therapy, or through anyone around you. I put something together for whoever has made it to this point. It's called the Origin Codex. Inside it are the 12 marks that were sealed in you before you were born, including this one, the mark of the higher frequency, which the world called ADHD, and other neurodivergences. For the first time, you'll understand the true origin of what you carry. The link is in the first pinned comment. Let's continue. The third reason is that the chosen one feels the spiritual weight of this time in a way that the nervous system registers as overload. You wake up with a kind of tiredness that doesn't come just from the day before. It's a deeper exhaustion. Sometimes you wake up heavier than you went to sleep, with no obvious reason to explain it. Places with a lot of people drain you in a way that isn't exactly social. It's energetic. You feel the emotional state of whoever is in the room. You sense when something is wrong before anyone says a word. You feel when an environment is carrying tension even when everyone is pretending everything is fine. That level of perception is real, and it has a cost. The nervous system that registers what most people don't process carries a load that wasn't divided equally. The modern world throws stimulus on top of stimulus, screens, noise, urgency, notifications, and the chosen one processes every layer of that in a way that goes deep, that doesn't just skim the surface. The diagnosis called that excessive sensitivity, difficulty with regulation, a disorder. Heaven calls it perception, an antenna, a nervous system that was prepared to pick up on what most people miss, to feel what needs to be felt, to carry an awareness that others haven't awakened to yet. The overload isn't weakness. It's the temporary price of a perception that will one day make complete sense. The fourth reason touches something that few people dare to say out loud, and it's going to ask something of you. Pay attention. ADHD in a chosen one isn't a deficit of attention. It's an excess of attention across multiple layers at the same time, in a world that only wants you to focus on one layer at a time. There's something that happens inside you when you try to complete a simple task. Your mind doesn't go to an empty place, it goes to many places at once. One idea pulls another, one connection leads to another connection, one thought opens a door that no one else around you seems to see. From the outside, that looks like distraction. From the inside, it's a living, active, accelerated process that the external system simply wasn't built to hold. Most people operate in linear mode. Start, move through a process, arrive at a result. The chosen one operates in non-linear mode, starts at 20 points at the same time, connects what looks disconnected, sees the pattern before assembling the sequence. That is a spiritual skill of perception that became a diagnosis when someone tried to fit it into a box designed for a different kind of mind. God did not create the chosen one to operate in a straight line. Revelation rarely comes in a straight line. The mission rarely gets fulfilled in a straight line. And the mind that was prepared for the mission was prepared to withstand and inhabit the complexity that the mission will demand. The problem isn't your mind. The problem is having spent years trying to fit that mind into a mold that was never made for it. The fifth reason is that the chosen one has difficulty with anything that holds no real purpose. You've probably tried to force yourself to do things just because they needed to get done, not because they made sense, not because they connected to something bigger, but because they were required. The form that has to be submitted, the spreadsheet someone asked for, the meeting that went nowhere, and you sat down, opened the file, and stared at the screen for 40 minutes without being able to start. That isn't laziness. It never was. It's that the chosen one's soul was formed with a very direct connection between action and meaning. When the action carries a clear purpose, the energy flows. When the action is just survival, just protocol, just because that's how things work here, the chosen one's internal system simply doesn't comply. The world called that irresponsibility, called it immaturity, but what was actually happening was a soul refusing to run on the autopilot that keeps most people asleep. That is spiritual. God doesn't place purpose inside a soul so it can waste energy on whatever comes along. He tunes the signal, and a tuned signal only responds to what carries real weight. The sixth reason is the one that was used against you the most, and it's going to give back something that was taken from you a long time ago. You were called intense, difficult, over the top. When you cared too much about an idea, people pulled back. When you felt something deeply, the room cooled down. When you defended a position with conviction, the space got uncomfortable. And over time you learned to turn the volume down, to hold yourself back, to make yourself smaller than you are, so you'd fit into whatever space others left for you. But here's what nobody ever told you. The chosen one's intensity isn't excess, it's capacity. It's the same force that makes you genuinely care about what you do, genuinely love the people you love, genuinely feel what most people filter out and discard. The world struggles with people who feel at high volume because most people operate in muted mode. Muted is comfortable. Muted doesn't disturb anyone. Muted doesn't wake anyone up. And that is exactly why the chosen one's intensity has to be contained by the system. Because someone who feels at full strength and has clarity about what they feel is someone who doesn't fall asleep easily. Someone who asks what most people never ask. Someone who unsettles others simply by being awake in an environment that chose to stay asleep. ADHD captured that intensity and called it hyperactivity, impulsivity, difficulty with emotional regulation. But what's actually at stake is a soul with a higher internal volume than the default volume of this life. It isn't a disorder, it's a temperature. The temperature of someone who was marked before birth to carry what the sleeping ones wouldn't be able to carry. If you've ever tried to convince yourself that you feel too much, react too much, want too much, that was the noise of the world trying to make you fit into a space that was never yours. You don't feel too much. You feel exactly as much as what was placed inside you. If this content is making sense to you, consider subscribing to the channel. There's a lot more coming for those who are in this awakening. The seventh reason is the quietest one, and it may be the one you've never heard from anyone. Higher dimensions don't work the way this 3D reality does. There, no separation exists between who you are and what you do. No task separate from purpose. No work separate from calling. No survival separate from meaning. Everything is born from the same center. Everything flows from who you are, without friction, without the effort of convincing yourself. Your soul carries the memory of that. It's what makes you feel an inexplicable heaviness when you have to do something that holds no real meaning. It's what makes the energy lock up when the task is just an obligation, just because that's how things work here. It's what makes you wonder, even without words, why everything here feels so fragmented, so far from something you can't name but can feel exists. In this 3D reality, that became a diagnosis, became difficulty with regulation, low tolerance for frustration, inability to maintain a routine. But what's actually happening is that your soul recognizes the gap between what this reality offers and what it knew before incarnating here. And that gap hurts. ADHD, in that sense, is the signal of a soul that still hasn't forgotten where it came from, that still resists the fragmentation that this 3D reality normalized, that still refuses, even without knowing how to explain why, to fully adapt to a world that was built to keep people away from what they truly are. That resistance carries a high cost in here. But it's also the proof that something in you has remained intact. when everything around you asks you to forget. We've reached the end of the 7 reasons. And before closing, something needs to be said clearly. Nothing you heard here today is an excuse. This isn't meant for you to look at your ADHD and say, "So I don't need to do anything, it's spiritual." That's not it. What is spiritual never serves as a shield for the absence of movement. What is spiritual serves as clarity so that the right movement can finally happen. The difference is enormous. When you understand the true origin of what you carry, you stop spending energy fighting yourself. You stop trying to fix yourself in areas that were never broken. You stop comparing yourself to people who were made for a way of life that was never yours. And you start directing what you have, the intensity, the depth, the hyperfocus, the perception, toward what was placed in you before you were born. That is the beginning of alignment. It isn't easy, it isn't fast, but it's real, and it's the only path that will ever make sense for a soul like yours. There are chosen ones who spend their whole lives trying to fit into a world that will never fit them. And there are chosen ones who reach a point where they stop trying to fit and start understanding what they were marked for. This video was made to move you closer to the second group. If you've made it here, you are no longer the same person who hit play. Something was touched, something was confirmed, and that something didn't come from me. It came from inside you, recognizing what you've always known. Leave a comment below with the word "marked" if any of the 7 reasons described you in a way you'd never seen before. I want to know which one hit the deepest for you. I'll see you in the next video.